So I'm back now. All right, let's see it. Gegenwärtig. Okay. So I'm trying my best to have the questions, the chats on site, but I cannot promise you to get back to your questions ASAP. But all right, so let's start. Let's do some reviewing. If you guys missed some of the content we have priorly discussed, right? If you haven't yet subscribed to Kiddos Global, the trading club on YouTube, make sure you have, right? We have had 3 live sessions thus far. And in the very first one, a live market analysis where it says gold, WTI, the SpaceX euphoria, I literally gave you guys like a blueprint on the indices, how I see the bull market to continue. All right, check these out. There is so much value in these videos, you have no freaking idea. I love and thank you so much for the support you have given me. And again, it's about give and you will be given, right? The more support I see, the more I'm inclined to do more of these streams regularly. Look at the time and effort I'm putting in these updates, right? So, yeah, so leave some likes, some follows, so I see, all right, the work I'm doing is being rewarded, appreciated, and I will be giving back 10 times more, right? So now let's also go back to some recent posts here I did. For example, this one almost 25 hours ago. Turnaround Tuesday tomorrow. Almost added more shorts on my SMH swing short, maybe tomorrow. The moment these memory stocks pivot lower and leave a daily cycle high behind, we should see the above indices, the S&P and the Nasdaq, pulling lower. So I talked with you about this one, understanding where money is right now, okay? And with regards to the indices, it was clearly concentrated in these memory stocks, right? The semis have had and have been growing their market dominance within these indices more and more. So it was then obvious that once they do roll over, that they will pull back the entire market. Okay? And that's what has happened today. Now, let's just have a quick look here. So what I'm gonna do before you're gonna jump out of this stream, right? I'm gonna cover the S&P, the Nasdaq, the semis. We're gonna go over gold, silver, WTI, and have also a look at the DXY. Okay, so plenty of stuff to go over. If you have questions, be my guest and let's have a quick rollover. All right, that's the S&P here on the daily. What I have been suggesting in prior streams was very straightforward, right? Nothing we should not have been, just give me 1 second here. Nothing we should have been not expecting. And this is from one of the very first streams I did almost now 2 weeks ago, right? Seeing this one unfolding is very nice. So basically, what has been our thesis, right? How to make a decision. We have had a very nice move here out of the daily cycle low. I believe and still believe, we have no confirmation yet that this daily cycle failed here and that this move here is literally a backtest of this recent high and we are supposed to pull off an undercut low. That's the cycle theory behind this current move lower. Alternatively, right, The daily cycle low wasn't here. It was just a very long daily cycle. And this recent pullback here is nothing but a backtest of this low. And we're going to continue lower. Okay. So bears may celebrate too early, right? But we will discuss what areas, what needs to happen, and within what time window we should be expecting this pullback and daily undercut. All right. So at the same time, we looked at the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq was pretty much pulling off this same script, right? You have a high, you failed this one, you're not supposed to pull off a new local high. And remember my suggestion with you gonna get to a point where the risk reward for a short is so dramatically favored that it doesn't matter what's gonna happen, what your thesis bias is, you just gonna play the risk reward. And congrats to everyone who may have listened, right, or followed the script, because again, literally, what was the implied risk here? It was almost non-existent. Okay, so very straightforward. Now, and here the same. Is this going just to be a pullback before we resume higher or not? This is still to be decided. Now, what was different though compared to the S&P and the Nasdaq if we looked at the semis here? Why did the semis go higher? Well, the answer to this is found also within its cycle. Unlike the S&P and the Nasdaq, look at this one. They on the move down into a half cycle low, right? There was no failure. Instead, you have a textbook cycle, a high, a correction, and now a top. And if you understand this, the cycle methodology behind this, right, then you also understand these posts, right? The moment these memory stocks pivot lower and leave behind a daily cycle high, right, which is this here, okay, it drags the entire other indices also lower due to the fact that the semis have such a big market cap now, growing even more over these coming months within the respective indices. This is why you see here on my right hand side, right, the Nasdaq down 3.2%. The semis down 7.2%, right? So it's dragging the other indices also lower. Then the Dow Jones, for example, is not as much affected, right? So that's very important. This is very basic stuff, but people miss out on these if they do not understand where is money right now concentrated, where is it rotating to, okay? And all of this we do also at Kiddos Global, right? If you haven't already noticed and checked out our website, I very much recommend you to do so and see what we always do, day in, day out, right? So another post, right? We did also on gold. So let's have this here. This is from Friday, where we have had a bank holiday, right? On to another daily update for my subscribers. Gonna be discussing gold and silver and what to make of the recent price action. Discussing take profit areas, potential re-entries if the setup was missed, and also what if the inflection zone doesn't hold. Kiddos Global subscribers will always be up to date. Those who missed yesterday's live, I reposted this stream. All right. So, are there any questions with regards to the S&P, the Nasdaq, and the semis on this very brief breakdown here when it comes to the daily cycles and the alternatives? Because now I want to show you where I do expect maybe a pause, maybe a counter rally before continuing the move down. Okay, so if there aren't any questions here, again, I cannot see everything at once, but let me see. Okay, on X, no question. Welche Kennzahl sollte man im Nasdaq im Auge behalten? All right, so we're gonna talk about the Nasdaq. That's perfect. But before we go into the Nasdaq, let me just cover very quickly the S&P here. Okay, just give me 1 second. And I will explain my thought process here. Okay, so with the S&P here, right? One view, if we were to see another daily undercut, very basic stuff. We take this recent half cycle low in a failed cycle, put it up into the recent high, the backtest of the initial high here. And then you get these FIP extension levels like the 1.272, 7130, and the 1.382 at 793. So ideally, price will ultimately come down and reverse from this area here. Okay? However, at the same time, keeping these levels on, right? Let me be as precise as possible here. Let me zoom in also a bit. Okay, so here, there you go. So this is the take profit area if the primary scenario was to play out. Okay. My current put paper is calling for 70 to 50-ish, right? Somewhere in here by mid-July. So I do think eventually there is still more time to bring the entire cycle down further. So that's the primary scenario, all right? Alternatively, if we look here at our MAs, right, the 55 is grinding into this beautiful zone right here, okay? And I cannot miss the 0.764 here, which is also a very beautiful FIP level. Okay. So alternatively, if the bottom was already to be in, right? At this point, so we have had a longer cycle and the cycle did not fail, but just had a very long cycle left behind, then this area could lead to this alternative count. What I do, though, believe is that once we get here, we may see a counter rally and then break eventually lower. Okay, so keep an eye at this area here, 7330 to 730. Okay, once this is taken out, it doesn't mean that we are not going to see a counter rally, see some local support zones, counter rally, make the wrong impression. Hey, we're gonna go higher here, you're missing out, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's very important to understand. If an alternative situation was to occur, is it like technically justified? Is it from a cycle POV justified, right? And this is very important here, so take notes, All right. So we have now already reached the, I believe, the 0.618, if I'm not mistaken here. Broke that one. I don't like that one much either. Yeah, so 4354. We had an intraday bounce, but again, look at the conviction here with the MAs along the way. So that's my target. That's what I think this broader cycle will be giving us. We have also now, when it comes to timing, expectations, right? So this current daily cycle is only 25 days old if the count is right. So there is plenty of time for coming down, maybe going back up, and then ultimately coming down. If we get there quicker, right, then we will have a time window of consolidation, right? And I would personally believe like there should not be any lows until Monday next week and Tuesday, July 7th. So if price and time meet here, right, that's where I will be scaling out and look for longs instead. Okay. So just another quick reminder here. What is meant by this? Also explained in this post, right? Bull market, S&P, Nasdaq, SMH. I held 3 live streams and explained my view. I highly recommend to watch the very first one. The shots I'm currently playing are temporary and only cycles related for one more correction before silly season resumes. Thus far, it is pretty much on the way, but again, I can't be wrong, and we already started the silly season, what means blow off top. I think sentiment needs to move lower before final phase, but again, we will see. Now, this was before this actually happened. Okay, so I'm just gonna go into the Nasdaq real quick, but I hope you see what the intentions, what my motivation was playing a temporary swing shot, right? It's too good to be missing out, right? Risk reward. All right. So now these are the levels you should be having, right? And what if? What if price does resume higher? How could I be invalidating? Need to maybe start closing my shorts, right? As long they're in profits. So, and that for this, right? We take this recent high here, okay, connected to the low. At that point, by the time we will get down, you will be able to take this one, right? And let's assume we're gonna get to 7,330 and we pivot from here on forward, okay? Let's just assume. So one level which is very important for also if you do Elliott wave counts, right, is the 0.786 right there, 7525. And just by looking at this level, it seems like legit. All right, if we were to resume all the way back here, at that point in time, maybe I should consider that this has only been like a backtest of this low and we are meant to go higher. Okay? So keep an eye on this potential invalidation level. Okay. Next up, the Nasdaq. Okay. So what you got to do technically is pretty much the same. Why? Because the cycle is playing the same script. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is basically the primary scenario, right? Which is up, down, up here, and we're going to head lower, I think here. Okay? So what to make of this? So we have the first wave down, right? We broke the cycle here, right? This B wave up, right? Now can be measured down into these FIP extension levels. There you go. Let's use yellow, okay? So if we were to see a daily undercut, right? There you go. It could be very well from one of these levels, okay? Now, another thing you can do is, for instance, if this level here pops up in your in uh, in the back of your brain, wait a second. This level here is very interesting. When we approach this, right back here, we had a very nice candle above, an intraday backtest here, and then we shoot it up. Why is this important? Now, let's take this prior all-time high here. Let's drag price to the lows in, I think this is the April bottom here, right? March 23rd. So then you see levels here popping up, right? The FIP extension levels from this all-time high and this low. 27.6, 27.2. Interesting. These are the same FIP extension levels from this wave count down. So maybe I should take some notes here, right? This is what I call confluence, right? That once we get here, this is a major support area, okay? And then you look of the meaning of this area. This is where the party got the speculation side of it, major support, and I don't think this is going to be broken just easily, right? And this will give you a massive opportunity for the remainder of this rally. Okay, so if we were to be lucky and we get the primary scenario, which would look like this, right? Awesome. So take notes here. All right. Now, alternatively, right? Just like the S&P, what if the daily cycle low bottomed here and this is simply a retest? There you go. All right. So unlike the S&P, the Nasdaq is still compared relatively strong here, right? But yeah. So, and look at the MAs here, the 55 also grinding into our box. That's the inflection zone. Okay, look at this. So it may take another day or two, right? So there you go. If price gets here, right? This is an area where we could see an alternative, right? Scenario playing. Okay, but remember, this could also just suit if we break the 0.786 here, right? Then we lock this basically in. We wait for a broader bounce maybe, since we still have enough time. And then there you go. Okay, invalidation. So this wick here, right? Look at this. That's, I still cannot process that some of you may have missed this because it was such a good setup, right? Um, but anyway, invalidation. So if we, oh, a second. So again, we have to go back into the hypothetical. So let's assume, right? We do find the support here. Okay. Then the respective 0.786. So if we go lower, you then have to adjust just slightly. Okay. So if we then break back above 30.250, basically, yeah, then we may have to get accommodated that this is going to break higher. Okay. So keep an eye on this. Tikmancha DG Malo. I hope this one is giving you enough here, unless you have like a follow-up question. So, and now I just want to go over one of these things I shared in one of my prior streams, right? What to make out of my beautiful MAs I have implemented into my cycle framework. One being the 10, 21, and 55 moving averages. Now, so what I was highlighting also for my subscribers is the fact that when we, on June 15th, right? So let's take all of these out here real quick. So when we have had this initial drawdown, right? And this counter rally up. So what was noticeable that a broader move, a significant, decisive move is on the horizon was if you looked at the MAs. When we had this massive initial rally back to the upside, back testing the highs, what was obvious when we look at the MAs, and you know how many references I have made in these prior streams, right, about the MAs. Here, we were above the 10 and 21 moving average, right? Normally, you would be like, all right, what's the big deal? The big deal was that the 10 DMA was significantly lower, despite price being above, okay? So this would have meant nothing if we were to continue higher. But by the risk reward setup I was explaining, suggesting, the odds of a reversal were quite high. Okay? Were favored. Now, look what the MAs here did, especially yesterday, right? Price here we couldn't push higher. We came back down. We got then into the 10 and 21. Yesterday, we tagged the 10 DMA, had a nice rally back up. And look what happened earlier today, overnight. We tried to break the 21 to the upside. Boom. So one of my sayings is, in a trending market, right? The 10 and 21 are your friend. Okay? If the trend was even for a short term, go to the opposite direction, it's your worst enemy. So when we claimed these MAs, it was nice, right? You could be all right, we're gonna continue higher. Okay? But this setup here with the MAs is something you should be taking notes on. Okay? Don't get me wrong. If we had went higher, the 10 DMA would curl back up to the upside, and it would be a very nice trending market to the upside. But it didn't. So, but it gave us a warning, meaning, hey, a decisive move is gonna happen. Either we're gonna blast higher, so the 10 DMA can curl back up, or we gonna nuke exactly like we have done here today. Okay? So, and again, if in the alternative scenario was to occur, right? Because again, anything is possible. Let me tell you, put these MAs on. They will help you for further guidance. All right. The same happened here with the Nasdaq, right? And look at this. So let me check YouTube here. There are a couple of questions. Wenn wir im S&P 500 bis das nächste Wochen. Okay, Brandon. Let me. I know. Okay, so a good question. It's written in German, so or is it already translated? Why is it popping up in German though? I don't know. Could you be so kind and post the same question on? Wait, maybe I have to translate myself. So basically, the question is regarding the cycles. When the next weekly half cycle low, intermediate cycle low was to occur. All right, it is a very good question, and I'm happy to give you my personal count here. Okay, you want to learn? Be my guest. So, the motivation here is, right? One of my sayings is we need a lower degree cycle failure to confirm a higher degree cycle to be in correction. Therefore, if we are on the daily, right? A daily cycle, let me open up an empty chart here real quick and show you. All right. So what happened here was we have had a daily cycle failure for a weekly pivot. Now, you're right in saying that why should the weekly correction take place now and not to a later time window? So, if this is the right count, right? Daily cycle failed and we're gonna go lower. This means the higher degree cycle, which is the weekly, look at our beautiful 21 weekly moving average here. It means that the weekly high is in. We are correcting earlier than you would have thought, right? And then we're gonna continue the uptrend later into August. Okay, so that's my primary scenario here. Okay, so I'm not expecting when people say, oh, that's over, blah blah blah. Remember, people, we have a lot of room to come down, and this cycle still to be very much bullish. Okay, and yeah, that's the definition. So it means that the weekly half cycle high, right, came in within the second daily cycle. And the second daily cycle here, because we have had a very nice daily cycle here, the second daily cycle is now in a failure, right? We're gonna finish the daily cycle number 2 right here. Okay, at this point basically, and then we have plenty of time to resume higher. Yeah, I think it's a YouTube setting, so my bad. Has this explanation giving you a bit more guidance? Is this understood? If you have a follow-up question, again, be my guest. All right. If anyone else has questions, again, shout it out, guys. I'm doing these for you. Okay? All right. So that's the motivation here. And in early, if you think this is, my subscribers would laugh at this one, right? Week 9. So the very earliest time window within my cycle framework, we have hit an initial high. And if this is right, we are gonna retrace here, and then we would then resume higher. So something to make some notes of, people. Very basic stuff. Okay. Now we covered the S&P. We covered the Nasdaq. We looked at the semis here, right? What's my view here? It hasn't changed from the prior recording, so I hope you have been paying attention. We have a daily cycle low, the high, the correction, very likely the daily cycle high here at the top of this daily cycle. We have our inclining trend line, so there is enough room here to come down to. Okay, and this is my base case. I'm not gonna flip-flop here. Invalidation is obviously if we were to break above the levels I mentioned the other day, 659, and it's a done deal. Okay, so I was very, very close in adding yesterday as I was posting. I thought maybe we're gonna see a swing high here and then we're gonna see the reversion, but the Kospi had other plans. You're very much welcome, Brandon. So now I also made some big. Let's have a look here. Where is that post before we go into gold, silver, and the other things? This post here. You can't imagine how nicely my cycles are lining up here. I'm pleased to tell you that my next mega setup is preparing, gearing up. It is a single tech stock, long, for the blow off top. If I see support during the live, I'm open to share the stock and explain every little aspect of it. So let's see it. Leave some likes here on the live on X as well as on YouTube, right? And if I feel like, all right, the support is good enough, right? Repost, leave some likes. You will be amazed by what is going to happen. Okay, but before sharing that mega setup, right, I want to change subject. So when I post that I want to see the sentiment coming down, right, it means I personally did not buy this recent move to the upside, right? I think broader moves like these occur when the sentiment, just like here, was very, very bad. Okay? Now just a 1 day pullback and people are already freaking out. Oh, that's the top of the cycle, blah, blah, blah. Look at this. The hyperscalers are double thinking about their investment in AI. Maybe the revenue out of AI isn't as good as they claimed. It takes way too long, etc. Okay? So, and all of this is necessary, right? If we do indeed then pull off the technical correction, right? That sentiment needs to be swept, right? You go from euphoria. The people who bought here, they are not gonna sell, right? They may take some partial profits and add at lower prices. This would be the smart thing to do. But expecting this one just to break down from here on forward is naive. Not likely going to happen. Okay? So instead, the scenario on this very first live stream I did back here, right, is very likely in the driving seat. Okay? So, and I'm sharing this now so you guys also understand that markets function on cycles, they function on market psychology, right? This is very key. All right. So now let's change subject and also discuss some recent setups which did not play the way they should and what to make out of this. I'm referring to gold. Where is it? Okay, so before we do this, let's go into the post one more time. Okay. Yeah, this post, I'm starting to feel more and more conviction about gold going sub 3K. Check pin post. Just a friendly reminder, will eventually go lower towards the promised land, but here onto another daily update. So the inflection zone, and if the inflection zone doesn't hold. Okay, so where were we? So I need to show you the pin post because it is amazing, isn't it? Okay, so now let me walk you through this one more time so you understand that I'm no bandwagonist, jump onto every trend, euphoria. Okay, so very early on, right here, personal bias, right? I did not post this here. I posted it when we were already bouncing back up. And look what I said. So you guys understand that I look at cycles. I don't look at anything else. I don't take no other opinion as this is have to influence my take on the market. No. Okay? It's a unique approach. All right. I believe gold has topped on the weekly, monthly, and this is important already. I say bias as there is no TA confirmation. Does it mean we go down in a straight line? No. There is still a rough plus 10% backtest complacency rally possible. This rally would bring us towards the 0.786 here. Bears will be in control despite these potential rallies. The downside potential I depicted of minimum 3.5 and an overshoot of 2.7k. Hope this helps for future posts as this is high time frame and not 5-minute posts. Okay? People did not comprehend this clearly because every time I was posting stuff, oh, does it mean we are not going to do this? We new all-time high when? How? Well, if you paid attention, I had multiple spaces back then. I was almost live every other day. Okay? So, next thing here I wanted to mention is look what happened thereafter. We had an 11% rally after this post, right? Understanding what the cycle was likely going to do, right? Complacency rally, right? And look what happened here on the same day. This was when the war broke out. XAU-USD is seeking out a daily cycle high or a daily cycle high lower than the half cycle high from the prior all-time high before commencing lower into a daily cycle low. The war in the Middle East won't change this. Just think back what the sentiment was like during that very phase, right? I did not let emotions get in the way, okay? Therefore, I'm expecting this rally to be sold sooner than some may expect. I'm literally telling you what people may think, like what the current sentiment is like. Can we extend and distribute for several days? Sure. But this won't change the outcome no matter how much higher we go within this volatility. So be mindful of a mean reversal at some point this week. Stay focused. I made several posts and commented on other posts as well. Have a read. Okay? So, and then we came down here, right? We were still above the prior post here, right? And I just stated I feel like I'm still too bullish, right? On gold. I may have to lower my least minimum target and so forth. So what should this one show you, right? When we talk about broader corrections in the market, right? Calling this a potential monthly cycle top. I will get to your question, Brandon, soon. Let me just finish this point here before we go back into the semis. So, when gold was here, right, and I call for a monthly correction, those of you who have been following me actively, right, and joined the spaces know this very much phrase, should be knowing this by heart at this point. We need a lower degree cycle failure to confirm a higher degree cycle to be in correction. Okay? So now let's zoom out. All right then. So this monthly cycle started back here. Okay? So this monthly cycle ain't gonna fail, is it? Okay? There is no fucking way that this cycle is gonna fail. I know this. Everyone knows this. However, what I'm referring to is we need a weekly cycle failure so this monthly correction can continue take place. Okay? So when I am bearish here for a monthly pivot, people think I am the ultimate bear, that I don't think gold has it to go higher thereafter. This is ridiculous. But what does it show me? That there is so much like spread false information within this gold sector. People not understanding technicals, not understanding the markets, fundamentals, nothing. But what they understand is hopium, euphoria, copy paste the scammers, right? I did my very best. This is why I took this extra time here to go over these pinned posts here. Okay? So, now, if we go into the weekly, there is the answer to be found, right? When we talk about monthly cycles, you have to go one leg lower to see and find the answers to get back to the monthly, right? Very logical. Now, the last weekly pivot back here, right? Back in July 2025, we also discussed is likely not going to fail, okay? So when we had this pivot back here, right? You could even assume that, hey, hold on a second, right? The last weekly bottom was here, and this is a very long weekly cycle. Not my primary count, to be honest with you, especially here. Should have been here. 64 long weekly cycle. Again, cannot be ruled out. I talked about the difficulties back here because we did not have a daily cycle failure back here. The Euro gold chart did have one. So this is why I am inclined here to label back here July as a weekly pivot, right? End of July. Sorry, here it was. Yeah, right there. So we have had a short 34-week long weekly cycle. This weekly cycle isn't gonna fail, right? In my opinion, and hasn't. But just by understanding how these cycles are supposed to work, right, we need definitely a weekly cycle failure to confirm that the broader cycle, right, this one, the monthly cycle, is actually in a corrective phase. So, and to confirm a weekly pivot, we need a daily cycle failure. Guess what happened here? The daily cycle failed. Okay? Here it did not. We had another short one. We had the failure. Now, if that's now the weekly pivot, guess what? The weekly cycle has now failed. Okay? Yes, we may see eventually another backtest, but remember, that's primed. It's not going to change. Okay? Could this count be wrong? Of course. Okay? This could be regarded as a weekly correction. We go up here and we are now seeking out a new weekly bottom, and this one would do this, but the outcome is the same. We will require a weekly cycle failure. Okay? So I hope this takes all the hopium, the your mindset away from, or I need to buy gold because I'm gonna miss out. I have been very, very vocal about the fact that I said people are wrongly fucking conditioned. The thing what worked on the prior 4 years isn't working anymore. Why don't you ask the questions why? Okay? So, again, I see a lot of good, nice feedback, likes, comments, right? People joining Kiddos Global, wanting to learn more. So again, I think I am helping people out here crazily, right? So, but the overwhelming majority is simply naive, stupid to do some digging before just throwing out, oh, you're an idiot and dumbass, you have no idea. Yeah, why don't you show me? Right? I am holding these live streams. I did hold multiple live spaces where you could interact with me. Okay? So I'm very much doing my very best here. Okay? All right. So that's about gold on the higher time frame. Okay? And now to the very recent post here. Why it is sometimes, why setups do not work. So the trend is basically no longer functioning, right? We are no longer bouncing here the way we should be. This is also very telling information, right? And on Friday, when I had held the daily update for my subscribers, right, it was a bank holiday. But if we go into the 1 hour, I just want to show you a trick on how to spot is there volume or not. So when we were down here, right, that's the Friday morning sell-off. So for those of you who missed the actual inflection zone, right, so we talked about that 30 area, right? And the 0.786 right here. Okay. So we came down here and yes, we did. Like for intraday purposes, it was a beautiful setup, right? 30 points of risk. Guess what? Some of us in the group banked some very nice profits. There you go. 3-1 risk reward. Not shabby, is it? But the intention of this had a much higher importance. It was a 4-hour inflection, a daily implication zone. Meaning, This pivot here on the first attempt, right? And I'm not even saying that this still cannot happen, but it becomes less likely. So, but the intention was, if this is a daily pivot, that this zone should be open for the move higher. Now, what we have seen here on Friday is very low volume. So let me show you what I meant with, I'm going to show you how to read the respective, what is it called? Stochastic RSI. I'm not using volume indicators. I'm using the stochastic RSI here as having a good read on volume. So when we came down here, right, look at this. I'm going to highlight this. So we were basically at 0 on the 1 hour here, right? There you go. Then we had this nice pump to the upside. Look at this. We went 4 hours later from overbought into oversold into overbought conditions on the stochastic RSI. So there was little to none volume, and we had that bank holiday after all. Okay, so on Monday we opened up with a gap, and look at the beautiful MAs here containing price again. So it had a valid chance. Guess what? Another failure here. Okay, so this isn't looking good, period, right? Scalping wise, you can still make money on some longs, right? But it doesn't look good at all. Okay, let me see if there are questions. Thanks, Crash Override. Yeah, I don't know why though. So for those of you who are listening right now on X, right? If you have questions, we have several questions asked already on YouTube. It's perfectly working. I see those questions popping up. So if you have a question you may want to ask, go on to YouTube. The link is below this below this live stream on X, and make sure to ask questions while I'm still on. All right. So now that's what happened here. So it's not working. What does it ultimately showing me? That this daily pivot ain't gonna hold. Can we still pull off the 4 hour bottom here, right? By maybe not breaking the entire cycle. Sure, this could happen. However, is this something I would be chasing? I have like desire to trade. Me personally, hell no, not interested. But if we were to see a broader rally back up, this would be regarded exit liquidity move, as you do not get away by breaking the 0.786 period. Okay, so that's my thought process here. Now let's zoom out and let's just look at the daily, right? And there you go. 21 DMA, boop. One of the simplest sayings I have had, right? On a trending market, these MAs are your best friend. On a trending market to the opposite, these are your worst enemy. How much more easier to comprehend can I put this? Okay. Now, look at the stochastic RSI here on the daily. Okay. So gold, ever since this pivot here, right, where I believe we're in a failure, right? We see prices doing lower lows while the MICD here is still holding up. So could we see another leg lower here and then a broader rally back to the upside? Yes, we could. But like I said in the prior update, if this is not holding and we do pull off a daily undercut, we have to go lower, people. Okay? Period. So, what's the cycle motivation behind this? Again, that's my personal count. Not many have had this one on, right? But I have been suggesting, hey, that's a daily cycle low. The first weekly, if that's my count, right? That's a weekly bottom. The first daily cycle here did not fail. We started a new one, and this is why price is doing lower lows and lower highs. This cycle failed early, right? Consolidating, boom, 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 and then we may start seeing a relief cycle to the upside, right? There you go, which will ultimately lead, boom. Okay, that's the script. So, were there alternatives counts, right? With the 4-hour inflection and such? Of course, right? But in a trending market, you would see these ones more often than not working. In a trending down market, it's exactly the opposite, right? Some of them do work if we do have a daily pivot, okay? And if they don't, we go one leg lower. So, does it mean we cannot still see like a backtest of the 200 MA here at 44.80 in the coming weeks? Hell no. But to me, this means we need to come down further. Okay? So, what to make of this? How can we measure potential areas? First of all, I have some broader, higher time frame levels already lined up, right? But again, this is for subscribers mostly. If I am going to post them, make sure to take notes. But let's take this count here, rave count here. So we have had a daily pivot here and one here. So let's use those FIP extension levels. Where would this one put us here? And I'm highlighting some. Take notes as I am doing this. So I personally believe that if this count is right, we go lower into late June, first week of July. We pull off a massive daily cycle low here. That's where I believe we will be seeing a broader relief rally back to the upside. Okay? So I don't believe there is going to be much energy here, triple bottoming, whatever you want to refer to this. I think there needs to be some, new reality check, basically. Sweep those 4K areas here. With that being said, this area is very crucial. 425, 410, okay? So once we see this actually breaking, this is being confirmed, okay? So we are right now in no man's land at very high support if you want to look at this, but that's primed in my opinion, okay? I will be back in 2-3 weeks, right? Update on this, and you will be like, what the fuck happened? How did you know? I don't know. Okay? But if you have so much confluence, right? It's just meant to happen. Okay? All right, so that's gold. Now let's get back to silver. I made some, again, for those of you who know me, right? I am personally a big believer in silver on the long term. But there have been so much crap, fake news shared on the silver market, just like on the gold market. But yeah, silver was even crazier, right? Look at this post here when we had this euphoria rally. I'm not gonna FOMO buy silver. I will be buying silver below $50. And this has been my point of view, no matter how much higher we went after this. Then I posted here mid-February, right? We had this massive drawdown. I told the likelihoods of going back to the upside were very high, but ultimately they all result in lower prices. So now you be my guest. What happened? Exactly these kind of expectations happened. Where are we heading to now? Exactly where we were supposed to go. So, and people then asking me, oh, what's this? When new all-time high, blah. I don't think they people understood the meaning of this, right? I did my very best. I once again held multiple spaces, right? So much false narrative spread back here. It's insane. So, what's my point of view in silver? The same like gold. We are in a multi-month correction. Are there going to be moves back to the upside to make the impression, hey, the bottom is in? Of course. Guess what the sentiment was back here? Friendly reminder, 0.786, boom. There you go. So there are ways to go back and get some more liquidity to fund these broader moves. Okay, now silver here is at the very, very critical level, 61.5. What a coincidence. Okay, so this area here to me is, I believe, gonna be swept. Okay, so let's use FIP retracements from the pivot back here in October 2025. Yes, I know this is ridiculous here. We have already broken the 0.786, or we are right now sitting on it, right? 61.8. So you break it, you're not going to get away with this, no matter how high you go in the meantime. So next areas want to be highlighted. 50 there. Let's take this one out. We can also take the April crash low here. Maybe there we're gonna find some more answers. And looks like it, right? $56, and the one I have been highlighting in recent weeks, $48. And because I like the 0.74 here a bit more. Okay, so there you go. Now, before we get there, are there other levels? Yes. $85, $89 is a very, very big horizontal support area. Some of you may remember back here what nice of a calls I had around these levels here. Okay. So basically I called this pullback into a daily cycle low and then the move higher into these levels. And this actually now in hindsight, look at this, more than a week of going sideways. So there is a lot of support. Okay. There you go. 85.80. So I'm not going to share the exact levels because I need to respect the subscribers here. Okay. But I can share this one, right? And I then believe we would still be good for a relief rally. Is it going to happen overnight? Can silver, unlike gold, being a shitcoin, right, squeeze lower? Of course. The right strategy is going to matter, right? If you want to play this, either you trade intraday, okay? That's one approach. However, if you want to swing trade, I'm highly suggesting applying some call options instead. Okay. How much higher could we go? Well, if the count here is right, and we are right now seeking out a new daily cycle low, so let's assume 85.50, right? So let's assume 85.80 here. This level is gonna hold as a new daily cycle low. Okay. If this holds, a move back into 70 is primed. A move back into the zero point 0.5 FIP retracement is very likely. Okay. And yes, we can revisit even some levels like this. Okay. So if you accumulate here for a fixed move back into these FIP retracements, right? The lower we go, obviously you have to adjust a bit. However, that's a very nice risk reward. So take notes as I am speaking. All right. So now we covered gold and silver. Let me now get back to the questions side here. Do you want to your short position nach dem? I don't. What is an MU winning? So you're asking whether or not I'm gonna open up a bigger SMH position. Is this what you meant, Brandon? So with SMH, I am in a good position here because since you do not know this as you're not in Kiddos Global, I'm in a good position right now. My average is 650-ish, right? So if we were to see a grind up back here, right? Back to my entry zone even. I'm gonna double down because the invalidation would be straightforward. Or Micron. So when is Micron I think it was meant to be today, right? Micron, let's have a look at this real quick. MU Micron, there you go. Now I got it. Let's have a quick look. I thought they were supposed to be today. Okay, it's tomorrow after hours. Okay, so what I believe is very likely going to happen with Micron is the numbers are gonna be beat. Okay, it's just you can right now with this rally here is represented by good earnings. I truly think so. But what the market is going to do with this is a completely different story. So let me show you. So with SMH here and Micron being the basically the mother of all ARM stocks here, memory stocks. So let me put this one off. So what could happen here is, and this is again short term, right? Let me stay on the daily. So just like the S&P and the Nasdaq, where I think we could see some temporary support zones tomorrow being tagged, right, and going for a relief rally, when market participants would get the wrong impression, oh, the lows are in, why didn't you dip buy? It was meant to happen, we're gonna fly higher. Again, first of all, I cannot invalidate this, right? Just like I showed you with the S&P and such, okay? The alternative scenario. But what could happen with Micron leading the stage here is, imagine they're gonna have some very huge beats, right? Tomorrow, is the market first of all gonna go lower before rallying back up, before continuing down, right? This is normal price action behavior. So with SMH, if this is going to happen, right, we're gonna go down a bit more tomorrow, a swing low maybe, then Micron pulls off some very nice numbers. Everyone is getting excited again. The market is dip buying, whatever. We grind our way back up. I'm only gonna extend my position on green levels. I'm not shorting red or adding on a red thesis. This is not how it's supposed to do. Okay? Only if price goes back up into this position here, for example, right? What you need to look at this from a sentiment POV, market psychology POV, is the following. So, Micron gonna deliver numbers. We can expect very good numbers. So what is the market, what kind of story is the market going to tell retail traders, right, to get wrecked? Because one of the most important question is, how are people going to get wrecked? Period. Okay? So how could this theme play out? Micron, tomorrow we're gonna maybe see continuation moves down if this was to occur, right? We hit some support, we bounce into relief, Micron comes out, delivers good numbers, right? The initial move, I would argue, is going to be a pump. Then what matters then is to understand, are market participants willing to buy these levels? Make no mistake, right? Are market participants still willing to buy these levels? Or are they going to be buy the rumor, sell the news? Okay? So that's very important. And again, it is a very thin, fine line, right? But having a concrete cycle framework, understanding levels of confirmation, where is support gonna come in, right? What could this mean? Is it just gonna lead to a broader relief bounce, right? Long's gonna be trapped, bull's gonna get wrecked because it is scripted that we go lower, or is it indeed going to be the alternative thing, right? Risk reward. It's all about risk reward, period. So that's what I am thinking. So I'm not gonna double down on my existing position because we are going down. Not gonna happen. Only if I have the confirmation from a, like, if I feel like this is going to, that's the confirmation I need. Remember, technically, nothing has happened here, right? We are still above the 21 DMA here, okay? But if we were to break lower tomorrow, right? And then hit a supporting level and we bounce off this, on this bounce, I would then double down on my conviction and I would still be in profits and I would be like, all right, the invalidation area is so close, right? Even if I was to lose money, it would be little. But if I win big. Okay? So that's the criteria. And remember, this daily cycle can easily fail. So I am very much bearish here in the short term. In the immediate short term, could we be backtesting some upside levels? Sure, right? But I'm not going to change my plan on holding on to these, right, for a bit longer and see what the market actually does. So by having an idea, understanding these levels, like I shared in the prior updates, right? Just if you missed these, go have a look. Very much described in detail. So now I'm in a very comfortable position to hold on to them, right? It's about having a good read, understanding of the markets, and so forth. Now, I still would believe we would still go higher eventually. Okay, so I am nothing but a bull on the higher time frames. This is just for me. All right, we are going to reset the sentiment, right? Not many were willing to buy here, for example, no longer. We need to reset the sentiment to fund the next leg higher. All right, perfect. Glad to help. Okay, next up. Now we covered quite some stocks, so I'm going to have a quick view on our WTI chart, and we have been reaching a very significant inflection zone. The levels also can be distracted from the very first live stream here, right? All you have to do is go onto Kiddos Global, the trading club, right? Get there, go into the playlist, right? Here, live market analysis, okay? So now what has happened? Exactly what we were telling has happened. Okay, we took this move leg down, this recent daily cycle low back from here. Oh, sorry. We had to take the weekly because we were scaling on the weekly. Yep. Okay. Let me add the 0.764. I love this one very much. Okay. So now, if you've been following me on X, right, and the posts I did with regards to WTI, or you watch the live streams also, then you know what my cycle motivation has been, right, throughout all of this, one hit after another. Now, I believe this is exactly where this accumulation zone is going to take place. Okay? Let me scale out here a bit into the weekly so you understand where we are currently at. We are now hitting basically the 55 weekly moving average. Okay? So, is this a new weekly bottom? This is also going to be a question to be asked here, right? Because we have fulfilled the criteria here. Okay? I think this is a weekly half cycle low, but again, that we will at least see another leg like this, alternatively like this. Okay, so now if you have a high time frame accumulation zone, right? I told you why on my last stream why I wasn't desperate to buy the immediate level straight up, because I believe there is some more time here to be consolidating, knowing exactly, all right, this is a daily cycle failure leading into a weekly pivot, so it's not going to happen on the same day. But what we have seen though is back here, we hit the 200 DMA, we had a small grind up, we came back down, and we are now continuing consolidating. Okay, so now we are still above $70, right? Remember when the peace deal was, or the MOU was signed, now the trade is up. All this political noise is just full of distraction. Why am I this confident about this? Because when we were here, I posted that we are going likely to see a weakening phase. I didn't know when, to what time this agreement was going to be passed or whatever, right? This is just cycle knowledge. coming up with a scenario and seeing this unfold, right? So now we are in a daily cycle failure, what means the higher degree cycle is seeking out a corrective phase. Okay? So, and I believe this area will be leading for a magnificent move to the upside. And if it does end up also be a weekly bottom, I would not be surprised to see new highs into October. Okay? So that's all I can say. If I was to open a position up, right, I will share this on X. Okay, next up, DXY. So give me a second. I was highlighting levels on my last space here. There you go. I think it was this one. Yep. Okay. So what happened? We have had a daily cycle low here on the 21 DMA. More importantly, when we talk about structure and impulse moves, right? Knowing, oh, that's going maybe to extend here. I should not be getting in the way because not only did we pull back lower into a daily cycle low, we also broke this area with a freaking power candle, right? And I was highlighting this very much fact, how much of a resistance this has been, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then if you break with the power candle and you actually confirm not what was missing here, close reversal, close reversal. Here we started closing and we were extending. So I still ultimately believe this will be backtested. However, right now we are on a tier. So what has come down in the meantime? Gold, right? Gold came down, silver came down, everything came down almost. Okay? So the DXY is on a freaking tier and has hit another yearly high here. And we're about to maybe attack this pivot. Okay? If that's a daily cycle low, remember this area is going to be a subject of a backtest, no matter what. Then we can make a decision. Or we're going to continue higher before coming down. This bears need to take out. They want price to be trading below 100.2. They want price to be contained below. As long as we are above, it's gonna go significantly higher. Okay? So this is very straightforward. Specific levels we need to be paying attention to. Okay? This will be a battleground area. We may start losing this, claiming this. This is going to be a retracement. Period. No matter how much higher this is gonna go, it's gonna come back. And there is going to be a big decision made right here. Whether or not we're gonna continue this uptrend or we actually may start seeing a failure. Okay? So keep an eye on this. This will also impact gold very, very likely. Okay? So now let's have a look. How many likes and shares did I get here to reveal my ultimate chart setup here? I'm giving you one more chance to leave some likes, some reposts. Only 6 likes on X. That's not a lot. Very disappointing. What are you doing, guys? The Iraqi method. Yes, I covered gold. So once this stream is over, I will be reposting this, also uploading it on YouTube. So by tomorrow you will also have some timestamps on YouTube. So make sure to be subscribed to Kiddos Global, right? Right here. All right. All right. I'm gonna be fair, right? I'm gonna share my the chart I promised you. Let's have a look. I'm referring to this post here, by the way, for those who missed it. You can't imagine how nicely these my cycles are lining up here. I'm pleased to tell you that my next mega setup is preparing. It is a single tech stock, long. Okay, so who wants to guess here? Put some guesses into the chat. What tech stock am I referring to? Who could guess? It starts with an A. I'm helping you. And it's not Apple. All right. Thanks for the likes, guys. Appreciate it. So who wants to have a guess? Go on YouTube, guys. Put on your S. Nope. One more time. Come on, Brandon. Appreciate the questions, right? This is what a stream is all about, interacting. One more guess. Come on, Brandon. I'm helping you. It's a big stock, a very big one, and starts with an A, and it's not Apple. I think you know Amazon. So the chart I'm gonna be talking about, I know you know, Steve. It's Amazon. And now bear with me, because as I promised, I will be talking, I'm gonna break this down quite in detail. Okay? So now, everything I have been talking about, cycles, lower time frame cycle failures to confirm a higher degree cycle correction, and everything to go with it, right? So I have shared this setup also at Kiddos Global, just one of many, but this one in particular is very straightforward. Okay, so I'm happy to share multiple aspects, right? Here in this particular chart. Okay, so here we go. We have had a daily cycle failure back here, right, from December 2025 into February. Okay? A daily cycle failure means the higher degree cycle is seeking out a corrective phase. So we have a weekly bottom here after taking out the 0.786. So we were in a new weekly cycle. Now, the weekly high here came in after 11 weeks. Kiddos Global subscribers know how amazing this is. But more importantly, we are now witnessing another daily cycle failure. So remember, what is a cycle made of, right? You have a bottom, you have a high, you have a low, you have a top, right? So we have a weekly high. We are now seeking out a weekly low to pull off a weekly top. So, and with all I have just shared with you, looking at cycles like on the Nasdaq, the S&P, right, the SMH, that yes, there is room to come down, don't get me wrong, but ultimately this is going to lead, right, to a substantial move higher. So, and Amazon here is a very, very textbook one, okay? So we are now also back below the 10-week, right, in one of the signal points within within cycle trading to confirm, all right, we are in a corrective phase. We see initially here a couple of weeks ago the 21 leading to a very nice pump, right? But now we have come down and we are now almost hitting the 230 area where the 55 resides. So, and again, because I am bearish on in the immediate short term on the Nasdaq and the S&P, that I do believe there are some maybe deeper corrections still to be taking place, doesn't mean that this will be happening, right? So with Amazon here, right, let's pull off the last recent bottom right there. Okay. We go now into the daily. So the weekly has been explained. Now we go into the daily and look for things to confluence this, right? Okay, so we have had a daily cycle low here, a very short cycle, okay? And then we have had one here. We try to build upon this, but cycle number 3, which is the highest likelihood of failing, did indeed fail. And right now we are seeking out a weekly pivot, half cycle low. Now, this also is now giving us an idea of timing. So we are now on day 23. Okay, so when we have this particular time window of late June, early July, yes, there is still some time to do so. Okay, now next thing, retracements. The 0.618. So we have more time. I'm just gonna use June. Let's use Monday. And the first week of July, where is that? Yeah, turnaround Tuesday, July 7th. Okay, so if price gets here, boom, you can already FIP extension to the upside if one of these levels does indeed end up being the actual bottom. Okay, so and look at this arrow, like it's measured already. Perfect. Another nice banger. What's happening here? Okay. So, and then we're gonna add our FIP extension levels to the upside. Okay, step by step, and here. So, now you tell me, right? If the broader thesis we have, right? We have a daily cycle failure here. Okay, leading into this, right? We are not there yet, and we could pivot at any day, basically. However, it's just something to look out for, because if the prediction here suggestion is right, why shouldn't we react right here? So you have basically the smallest possible risk for the highest possible reward. So you can even start your dollar cost average journey at higher prices, because remember, timing wise, we may as well just bounce back here before ultimately going back down, right? So, but if we take even the 0.618 here at 228 as initial dollar cost average area, okay? You have a 4.8 to 1 by having a dollar cost average area, which means if you follow the strategy on a swing, you can spread your risk and get an actual lower average down here, right? By dollar cost averaging. So it's basically a 10 to 1 risk reward, right? Sentiment would be completely resetted and is already starting to do so. So now imagine going down another 10% maybe, right? If we were to hit the 0.786 here. This is a fucking no-brainer, and you do not even have to use leverage. You could simply buy spot, because look at the gains, people. 33 fucking percent. It's insanity of what great setup this is. Okay? It may not even play, but why wouldn't you risk small to gain big? Okay? And I hope some of you are taking some notes here. Okay? Weekly high, weekly low is happening right now. And then we're gonna go up, and you're gonna be, fuck, why didn't I play this? Because if you spend unnecessary a lot of time on YouTube or X and follow some morons here, right? Distracting you with headline news. Look at SpaceX, Elon made so much money on this day. Yeah, why don't you go suck his balls, right? So what the fuck, right? So distraction is always a thing. Being prepared, right? Reacting to the stuff we are working out. That's how you profit. Risk, reward. So, and the more I look into Amazon here, Jesus, I haven't not yet opened up one, but I am very, very close, right? By starting dollar cost averaging. A very small initial percent, maybe like a 10% initial buy, and then extending lower, spreading the risk. Okay. Yeah, that's gonna pay dividends, and I will see you then towards mid-October. Mid-October we should be back down by mid-August, and then we can party together on a live stream. So on top of this, we have late July earnings, right? By that time, the pivot is already in. We may backtest due to news, whatever, or gonna use it as a catalyst for that continuation squeeze, which is, I believe, going to happen. But let's see. Okay, any final questions? So just to conclude here, thanks for the likes, right? Leave a like, a follow if you want me to continue doing these updates, right? I'm almost now live for 2 hours. Yeah, so we covered a lot of stuff, right? We went into the S&P, the Nasdaq, SMH. We talked about gold, silver, WTI, DXY, even Micron, and Amazon. So, yeah, leave some likes, some shares. Maybe you want to recommend me to a friend of yours, right? Hey, check out Kiddo. He knows what he's talking about. Or you should maybe pay attention to cycles, right? Yeah, everything helps for the algorithm, right? Thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you guys next time. All right. See you later. Bye bye.